Okay, so I am sitting on the beach here, just north of the small town of Ayampe in Manabi province on the central Pacific coast region of Ecuador. New Zealand is about 11,000 kilometers in a straight line in the center of this little circle I'm making here right now. And that is where I have been shown that this earthquake and tsunami will soon occur. So I just did a video with a written write-up of basically a summary of all the dreams I've had about that event. It's not all of them, to be fair, it's probably 50%. It's the more important ones in terms of the detail people need to understand what is coming. So the purpose of this video is to quickly run through another series of dream warnings of the premonition prophetic type that I've had about a natural disaster which will follow in New Zealand in the aftermath of this earthquake and tsunami. So in the past, while talking about this, I've gone into a lot of detail. I may make another video in the future where I go into more detail and really do a longer account of everything I've been shown, but I'm going to try to summarize this one. So basically I've been shown that there is going to be an enormous volcanic eruption on the central plateau of New Zealand's North Island in the aftermath of this earthquake and tsunami. It's logical to infer that the enormous earthquake that is coming is going to shift the configuration of the Indo-Australian and Pacific tectonic plates upon which New Zealand is located. So for those of you who don't know, they run down the spine of the South Island and I think part of the North Island. So New Zealand, a lot of people know this. I think most Kiwis know that New Zealand is on the Ring of Fire. So those are the names of the two tectonic plates. And I guess they're just going to be moving around after this earthquake, and presumably that's going to move some of the magma in the magma chambers beneath the Earth. There is some other stuff happening globally in terms of solar cycles, which I don't really understand too much because I haven't researched it. I've heard people here talk to me about stuff as regards, quote, solar minimum, and something to do with the Earth's magnetic field both weakening and moving. Like it's moving right now. I think the North Pole, the magnetic one, is currently in Siberia and moving south every day. So apparently when that weakens, it has some effect on volcanic activity globally, and basically it increases massively. We've been seeing initial signs of this even just in the last 6 months. If you've been following the news, you'll have seen that volcanoes have been going off in Africa, in the Caribbean, in Alaska, in Iceland. Yeah, I mean, there was even a little volcanic eruption on White Island a year and a half ago or so. So yeah, it's building up, but it looks like it's going to increase further. And this eruption is enormous. So Mount Tongariro and Mount Ngauruhoe completely blow apart. I've done some research on these volcanoes since I had these dreams, and apparently Ngauruhoe is technically just part of Tongariro. It's just another vent, so it's really just one big volcano. They just completely blow apart. It's what I've been shown in my dreams. When I first started having these dreams, I wasn't sure that they were of this kind. The first dreams that I had about this, I was just walking over the Tongariro crossing with other people, and we started to panic as we got halfway across the main big crater, about halfway up the main crater of Tongariro, which I think they call it the Devil's Staircase, which you walk up from Kiritahi Springs. And there's this enormous big plateau, and then you've got Mount Ngauruhoe on your right. And in the dream, it's like an alternate reality. It looks slightly different, as dreams always do. It doesn't look exactly as it does in the dream, but in reality, but it's the same place. It's not much different, to be fair. And yeah, we just start to run because we know it's about to explode. It's terrifying. You can feel the fear in these dreams. All of these dreams we escape, actually, which is kind of nice, so they have a happy ending. And I've had probably between 5 and 10 of these dreams over the past 2 years now. And usually, I'm just tramping with friends on the Tongariro crossing, and we can feel that it's about to erupt, and then we're streaking away, and in some of these dreams it pans out towards the end, as if my viewpoint is from a drone or a helicopter flying away, and you can see our cars from the other road end streaking away as we drive quickly to get off the central plateau, right, away from the danger zone, because we know it's going to erupt. And yeah, little variations on that, but that's basically what had been shown. Then more recently I had a dream that was very interesting. And this is the really shocking, cinematic, kind of poignant. It's the really shocking one I had about this event. So I was in Wellington, one of these unforgettable dreams. It was terrifying too, by the way. And I was in Normandale, so the Western Hills area of Lower Hutt, and I suddenly saw the sky go very dark, and I could feel everyone around me suddenly become very terrified. So I was in a suburban area, and it looked like Normandale or Korokoro, one of these quiet leafy suburbs on the Western Hills of Lower Hutt. And all of a sudden the sky went black, and I could see columns of ash and ejecta going up from this volcanic eruption from Ngauruhoe in Tongariro, and they went up 50 kilometers into the stratosphere. I was given that number in the dream, and it was absolutely terrifying. It was so enormous. It looked like the whole central part of the island had just blown apart, which, to be fair, a lot of it just did in the dream. And then I saw something else which was interesting. I saw intercontinental ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles, streaking in from the other side of the Pacific, tipped with nuclear warheads, and they were exploding. And I got the interpretation for what that meant symbolically in the dream as I was seeing it. And I got told that that wasn't literal, that represented the amount of energy released from this volcanic eruption. So it was basically saying that it was similar to the kind of energy that would be released when a country was attacked with, you know, hydrogen bombs and nuclear weapons. So just emphasizing it, this is huge. That was scary too, obviously, to see, but then I could see the shockwave coming down the island. So you see this explosion, all the ash go up, but the sound takes further to get there, and it's about 300 kilometers as the crow flies, those volcanoes from Wellington. So I knew it was coming, and I started to run to dive behind a wall, and as I was doing that, I could see the shockwave coming down the Hutt Valley, down Upper Hutt, and you could see all the trees sort of blowing out. And then I managed to dive behind this low concrete wall just in time and cram my hands over my ears. I just heard this enormous roar. It felt like my eardrums were going to burst, and then everything just went black as the ash started to come down. And it looked just like those videos, mostly on people's smartphones, that people took of that bomb that went off in Beirut last year. There wasn't a fertilizer explosion, that was a Israeli attack, that was a Mossad thing, so they just had an excuse. The fertilizer and the fireworks explosion, that was just kind of it was like plausible deniability, but it was some kind of, I don't know if it was a tactical nuke or like a neutron bomb. It was a Mossad thing, so that was just, you know, fake news. It looked just like that explosion. Incidentally, the death toll from that thing, I think, was probably in the thousands. They always lie about the numbers, so they said it was like 200. I mean, I saw videos within 3 minutes happening, and people walking in the area towards the area of the explosion. You could see it's pretty nasty, pieces of body, you know, covered in ash. And, there was other videos of people who died when things fell on them in malls, like a kilometer away. So it wasn't 200 people. It was probably more like 2,000 or 3,000. But if the Lebanese admitted the Israelis did it, then they'd lose face, so they lied about it. And if the Israelis admitted they did it, then it would look terrible to the international community. But the IDF had put out a tweet 2 years earlier. Get this, they literally put out a tweet saying, we have intel that there is a Hezbollah missile manufacturing facility in this warehouse in Beirut, and guess where it was? Yeah, it was the exact same location where the bomb went off, so it's not a coincidence. So, so you learn something new every day. Yeah, fake news. Trump's right about the fake news. This is a little aside, but useful information. It looked just like that explosion. Then the shockwave looked just like that, and yeah, it was really, really bad. And I had another dream about it where I was in a small batch community. It looked like Curacao on the southwest coast of Lake Taupo, and it was summer. And I was seeing this terrible scene. It looked like the aftermath of I guess kind of what it would have looked like after the eruptions of Mount Vesuvius in the towns of Herculaneum and I think it's at Pompeii. So that's that archaeological site in Italy where that volcano erupted in Roman times, and there was what they call a pyroclastic flow. So they named this kind of volcanic eruption Plinian eruption after, I forget if it was Pliny the Elder or Pliny the Younger, who I think was a philosopher. I'm not so good on the classics, this is off the top of my head. There's this famous Roman dude, in any case, statesman, scholar, who was killed in this volcanic eruption. But I think others, I think his son maybe, I think it was Pliny the Younger wrote an account of it. Anyway, one of the Plinys died in this volcanic eruption. So when this volcanic eruption, Mount Vesuvius eruption, and this enormous column of ash went up into the sky, like I did when I saw this volcano erupting, you know, maybe 10 or 30 kilometers, and then it collapsed in on itself in this massive cloud of boiling hot ash and toxic gases, just sort of thundered over the surrounding landscape and just killed a lot of people and then buried a lot of people in ash. So what I saw here was similar to that, what would have happened to those towns after that volcanic eruption. People weren't buried, but it was ugly. It was eerie and shocking and sad and tragic. So I was showing about 15 young New Zealanders. They looked like they were early 20s, between the ages of about 20 and 25, and they were all dead, and they were covered in ash. I just saw their bodies, and it was, they'd been killed because they'd been taken off guard by the size and the speed of this eruption, and I guess they didn't expect it to come there. And yeah, they'd all been, I guess, kind of boiled, or not boiled, but yeah, you know, the heat and the gases had killed them, and you could see their bodies were covered in ash, and they were just lying in the spa pool, and on kind of their bodies were just strewn on this deck. Presumably some had been trying to get away. So that's saying that, you know, this eruption will be so big the pyroclastic flow will reach Lake Taupo, which is, I think, 50 or 60 kilometers away from Mount Tongariro. So, you know, this is really, really big. And this eruption is just enormous. I looked into the science of it after I had these dreams, and it appears that it would qualify as what's called an ultra-planaean eruption. And this is a thing called the VEI, Volcanic Explosivity Index, and it looks like I think a 6 or a 7. I don't think it's it might be an 8. I'll have to look it up again, but it's enormous. This thing is huge. I do believe this is going to be the biggest volcanic eruption in the last 500 years on this planet, or potentially the last 1,000. It wasn't just an eruption. I got shown that the entire, like, the body of Mount Tongariro and Ngauruhoe are going to blow apart. Like, there won't be anything left, basically. That's kind of the impression I was given. One of the things I've learned about dreams in the last couple of years through many mistakes is, well, you know, it's kind of an exercise in humility. You have to really check yourself and not get carried away. We cannot actually predict anything. We can't see the future. Cosmic intelligence, it's all the same thing. The name isn't really that important. Aliens probably have like a million names for God, a million different planets. Yeah, God, you can't see anything. God shows you stuff and shows you it for a reason. And you have to be careful though, because you can't see the future. You only get shown stuff, so you can only go off what you get shown. And even then you need to be careful, because some of it will be symbolic. So in the past I would get carried away, and I didn't realize it consciously at that time. Looking back I do now, but I would start to fill in the gaps and extrapolate, and it never works, because I don't know what I'm doing. It's not my role. So yeah, exercise in humility, learn to just step back and just focus on the information that I get given, and not get carried away, not try to fill in the gaps, not try to extrapolate it out. So yeah, I wasn't actually shown what this area will look like in the aftermath, but it really, you could feel the that main crater on Tongariro, which is like 1 or 2 kilometers wide, and Ngauruhoe, they were just going to blow apart. There wasn't going to be anything left. It could just be a caldera left, you know. It could just, the volcano could just blow apart to such an extent that the whole mountain disappears, and there is a hole, and then that hole later fills with water, and there'll be a big crater lake there, which is just what happened to Lake Taupo to the north. It could be that big. If it's not that big, you know, the volcano will drop in height by at least 50%, you know, Tongariro. And that thing is huge. That mountain is enormous, massive. Just volcanic material, you know, there's many cubic kilometers in that thing, in that mountain. Most of what's going into the atmosphere will be from under the earth, but then the whole mountain's just going to get vaporized, dude. So that's what I got shown. And I've also learned over the years to be really, really careful, because some dreams you get are not from God, they're from what they call familiars and other traditions, which are just like mundane spirits, some of them nature spirits. Just the only spirit you can trust is the Holy Spirit. That's, you know, again, it's just a name. God, whatever you want to call it. That's the only one you can rely on. Yeah. You can't, the others are just kind of dodgy. That's been my experience. So you have to check if the dreams are from God. And usually there are some pretty clear criteria. One of the main criteria that I've found works for me is that they will be recurring. They won't just be a one-off. One-off dreams have caused me a lot of problems when I thought they were meaning something they didn't, or predicting the future. So I don't trust them, I just kind of take them with a grain of salt, and unless they're recurring. These ones have been recurring. That's the main criteria. The other main criteria is that many other people have been having similar dreams, and that is the case in this case too. Other people I've looked online have been having very clear, vivid dreams that there will be these large volcanic eruptions in the North Island, and other people have seen those volcanoes exploding. So I know that's going to happen, and I'm extremely cautious about saying that now. I'm still, you know, keeping a level of anonymity. Introverted kind of person, so that's part of it, but it's also that I'd rather stay anonymous. You're hearing my voice, but you're not going to hear my name or see my face, which is why I'm, yeah, the camera's focusing on these islands and not me, but yeah, many other people have been having these dreams. Other people have been shown Mount Taranaki erupting. I've seen multiple accounts of people who have seen White Island erupting, and apparently that creates a very large tsunami, and Tauranga is actually evacuated by the Australian Navy. That's what people have seen, and the city is being destroyed. Like I've seen some of these accounts, and people are just running for shelter as people are killed, and houses are being destroyed as pieces of flaming rock fall down from the eruption of the volcano like bombs. And then a lot of the city is destroyed by the tsunami that is created from that eruption of White Island, which sounds really, really large. Apparently Mayor Island erupts. Some people have even seen the volcanoes in Auckland going off, which is really going to be a trip if it happens. So, you know, not much of New Zealand is going to come through this thing unscathed. It's going to be really, really crazy. It's going to be really, really bad, really, really intense. And yeah, I don't know the timing, but it's going to happen after this earthquake and the tsunami. So to summarize the volcanic eruptions, yeah, it's Mount Tongariro and Ngauruhoe which blow apart. I've had multiple dreams about that. I just gave you the accounts of the sets of dreams of a similar theme, me walking across with other people, and then we could feel it was about to explode, running to get off the central plateau. The dream about seeing the eruption from Wellington, and then the dream of seeing people dead on the shores of Lake Taupo. I've had other dreams where I'm more around the other side of Lake Taupo, and we can just, that's the other fourth set I would add here about on this theme of this event. We were running to our cars to drive away, and it was the energy I got in the dream from the landscape was sort of disturbing, ominous, eerie. We could feel that a lot of people were about to die. And it's funny because now that I feel that energy in the dream, like thinking back when I was a child, I could actually feel that energy on the central plateau. It has this interesting energy. It feels like almost like people shouldn't be living there, to me, because it's so unstable volcanically and there's been so much destruction there. It's almost like we should just visit briefly, but we shouldn't really be living there. It's the feeling I got. It's kind of like living in a fireplace in terms of geological time, because it's so active. You know, it might be some fertile soil in some places and some nice views when you come across it, but then, you know, the next night, which might only be 500 or 1,000 years in geological, you know, in the history of the Earth, which is nothing. It's like the blink of an eye. That, you know, the freaking planetary consciousness, Gaia is going to light a fire, and there's going to be a volcanic eruption, and then you're going to get fried. So that's kind of the vibe I got. And yeah, it's just interesting to note that. And then yeah, we were just driving away really quickly to the north towards Auckland. So that's all the dreams pretty much I've had about that event. And yeah, to summarize the volcanic eruptions here, so Tongariro Ngauruhoe, I've told you all the dreams now. People have seen Mount Taranaki erupting, they've seen Mayor Island erupting, so that's 3. 4, they've seen White Island erupting. It's 4. 5, some people have seen the Auckland volcanic field erupting. I'm just going to throw this in here now. 6, I had a dream about a month ago where I was shown Mount Ruapehu erupting, and this was quite specific. To be fair, this is only a one-off, so not quite as confident. I'm 100% of the ones about Tongariro Ngauruhoe. I'm 90% of this one though, because it fits in the same general theme. I haven't had more than one dream about it, but it was very clear, very detailed, and very specific. Usually those dreams are message dreams and are reliable, and it fits in with the overall theme that everyone else has been seeing. So I'm 90% confident. I'm 95%, this is legit. I was shown Mount Ruapehu erupting. I was back in my old high school, Scots College, near Wellington Airport, with some other Scots boys in our uniforms. And we were just walking around. There was this kind of quaint, kind of reflective music playing in the background. And we were strangely calm. We were walking around the airport, the planes were grounded at Wellington Airport, and there was ash falling from the volcanic eruption. It cut to a movie-like scene of the ash cloud from Mount Ruapehu, and God was saying that there is just going to be this eruption of Mount Ruapehu, but it's going to be much smaller and people will be killed, but I was told that only 9 people will be killed in that eruption. Presumably the death toll from the Tongariro Ngauruhoe eruption was going to be a lot more, because it's going to be really large. And starting to wind this up now, it's interesting to reflect on the wider ramifications for the planet when this happens. You know, there might not be a summer that year, because this thing is going to be so big, it's going to put so much ash up into the stratosphere. Krakatoa, I think 1886, 1885, and there was, I think Tambora in Indonesia was 1876. Those are the last really enormous volcanic eruptions we've had on this planet, and this looked a lot bigger from the stuff, the research I did in the Volcanic Explosivity Index. Now I want to wind this video up with a really, really, really sad, shocking, and grim vision I've had of the future, and it gives me no satisfaction or pleasure to say this. Quite the opposite. I was so horrified by these dreams that I've been having for 2 years now that I did not want to believe them, and I stuffed them back at the back of my subconscious and just denied it. But I can't anymore, because, well, to be honest, I've had 4 of them. If I'm really honest with myself, deep in my heart, I know they were future predictive type dreams. I know it's going to happen. They were hyper realistic. They're repeating. They fit the pattern of all the other kinds of dreams I've had like that. Most importantly, literally thousands of other people around the world are having these dreams, and we are all seeing the same stuff. And yeah, I'll just say it, there's going to be a 3rd World War. So World War III starts between roughly 2023 and 2024. The US gets invaded in summer. They've seen people, of Americans have seen, it's consistent, shockingly consistent throughout the dreams. They'll land in craft, and it's a sneak attack by the Russians and the Chinese. They've got all these secret weapons, these super weapons that they've been keeping secret, and they've been planning this for decades. And they invade New Zealand and Australia. It's really bad, and it's like, you know, a lion versus a kitten. A psycho, narcissistic dragon with self-esteem issues, and, you know, who wants to take over the world versus a really overly trusting, innocent and naive Kiwi and a wallaby who's much the same, not quite so freaking naive. I love New Zealand and New Zealanders, but to be fair, there's something in the Chinese national character which is expressed in their military in a really unfortunately brutal and efficient manner, which is that they have this thing about deception culturally. It's highly valued in their culture in terms of their military tradition, which is about 5,000 years old. So they're really good at deceiving people. You need to read some books about Chinese military history and Chinese culture to understand what I'm talking about. Read The 100-Year Marathon by Michael Pillsbury. There's the audiobook's on YouTube actually. You should really pay for it. But yeah, read that if you want to know what I'm talking about. It explains everything. China has a military tradition that goes back 5,000 years. They are seeking to become the dominant power on this planet. They want a global order that's based around China as the hegemon, the ba, that's the term they use for it in Mandarin. And from their perspective, well, it's true. The US is currently the hegemon globally, and they're aiming to replace the US. This is really, 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 really bad, because they want to take over the world, and they're ready to kill a lot of people. And they've got the means to do it. And their military is much more advanced than we've been led to believe. Deng Xiaoping's quote, hide capabilities by time. That's what they've been doing for decades. So they're actually much more advanced than they're letting on. And they're acting like they want peace, but they don't. They want to cut our throats. I'm talking about the Chinese military here, so it's the CCP, they're evil. Everyone is underestimating them. I have some friends in the military, 2 majors in the New Zealand Army. One of them has a pretty good idea of how serious the situation is. Even he doesn't realize how bad it is. I mean, I didn't. And when I had the dreams at first, I literally couldn't bring myself to believe it. It was too shocking. I didn't want to. It's too terrifying. So yeah, the next video I'm gonna talk about what I saw in these dreams about with what's happening with World War III. And I'm going to go into detail about what these Americans have seen that happens there. But this is completely insane. And look, I'm just going to say it now. If you have the means, you should get out of New Zealand before World War III starts, because New Zealand's going to be occupied. A lot of New Zealand, our women and girls are going to be raped. A lot of the men are going to have their throats cut and put in bullets pumped into their skulls, and they're going to be brutally tortured. Armies are easy to conquer when they're weak. Countries are easier to conquer when they're weak. Spiritual weakness just weakens the entire fabric of the nation. So yeah, I mean, some of that stuff has been deliberately pushed into our societies to weaken us before this freaking invasion. And when people are cut off from God and authentic spirituality, they become really weak. People in New Zealand, I really see that it's all about comfort and pleasure. We've got this really toxic form of liberalism, just really, really spoiled. That's what I see. So spoiled. And so naive. And they just listen to the mainstream media, which is mostly fake and BS. And they're kind of living in a bubble. They don't really know what's going on. And they're easy targets. Yeah, most New Zealanders have no idea about anything, what war is like. Even like, one of the gifts of having an insanely toxic family full of violence and abuse and being traumatized from having them attack you when you try to stand up for yourself and your principles is that it makes you a lot more resilient, but you also you get it in a sense of what war must be like, because I mean, I haven't been through war, but I've been through what was effectively a civil war in my family, emotionally and, well, in all senses of the word. There's been a lot of physical violence. I wasn't on the receiving end of it. I was threatened with it. It wasn't war, but it's the closest I've experienced to it, and it's absolutely horrific. That's what New Zealand is about to go through as a country, and the country is pretty sheltered overall. Most people haven't even had that kind of experience of really shocking trauma in their families. Like, they don't know what's coming. They're not ready. It's going to be really, really bad. And people need to be warned. I've been told to do this, so I'm going to make this warning video. My batteries run out, so it's time for me to end this. But look, yeah, as I said, you need to think about leaving New Zealand before this comes, because it's hell on earth. And the war will finish. I've been shown afterwards, this peace returns. They won't be there forever. You can come, but yeah, you don't want to be in any of the Anglo countries. just get out. You're not going to be safe, and you do not want to be in a country under military occupation. So yeah, await that video next. But yeah, the natural disasters are the least of our worries, guys. They really are. So yeah, stay safe, and yeah, God won't defend New Zealand because New Zealand has abandoned God, but yeah, I hope God has mercy on us, because yeah, we're really going to need it.